you on Friday because 20 years on from the passing of the great man Brian Clough. We were talking about Brian. Many Forest fans were getting in touch with their own memories of Brian. Many fans, England fans, were getting in touch, Martin, saying what might have been if Brian Clough had become England manager. But it made me think of an interview I did with Brian, not in his back garden, but it was in a friend of his back garden, and it was in the build-up to you leading out Celtic in your first cup final as manager against Hibs, which I think was like early 2000s, 2001. Something like that. And of course, Martin was one of the star Forest players under Brian Clough, the Nottingham Forest side that didn't just win one, but won two European Cup finals. And this was a great Brian Clough talking about Martin O'Neill, the manager, and about the achievement Martin was experiencing getting to that first cup.
Break my records, and you know, unless you've been drinking, you'll never get to that. You wouldn't dare ask me questions appertaining to records. But we went 42 games without defeat at Forest, which was a hell of a lot of games if you think about it, without defeat. And I was taking on the Manchester Uniteds and the Liverpools and the Arsenal, beating them at their place and then whacking them at ours. And Martin said, I'm going to beat your record. I said, you'll have to live to 400, like, you know.
You like the guy, don't you?
Oh, I should do. He was my type of lad. He put his lot in. He thought deeply about it. He didn't particularly like me, because I did some terrible things to him. We were sitting round and I was picking the side to play in the European Cup final, away from home. I think it was Malmo. And I went round, and he'd been injured, and I said, Martin, how are you? He said, oh, Gaffer, he said, I'm fine. I said, smashing, went round, Archie Gemmell. I said, Archie, how are you? He said, I'm fine, Gaffer. He said, I'm waiting for him, like, you know. I said, what did you both have? He said, we both had hamstrings. Now, I know you've got to be careful with hamstrings. When you feel fine, you're not. And I had a golden rule where if you got a hamstring and they said that they were fit, you give them another 2 weeks. So I said, well, I'm delighted you're both fit. I said, I've got news for you. Neither of you are playing. And bloody Martin looked at me and I thought I was kidding momentarily. And Archie knew I wasn't kidding because he'd worked with me at Derby. And Martin shuffling a wee bit and Archie says, he means it, you're not playing.
And how did you take it?
And Martin says, you're not playing either. Well, they both got up and we were sitting in no shirts on because the sun was shining. In summer, cup final, European Cup, grabbed the bloody shirts, stalked off, and I said to Martin, say bye to the gaffer. He didn't say anything, but his sign language, I thought he was waving to me, but his hand was the wrong way round. It's amazing how you pick things up, isn't it?
Oh, I can still see him telling me that story about you, Martin.
Extraordinary. Extraordinary character.
What did you do? Did you round on him after that?
That's not true. I remember it was the morning of the cup final. Archie Gemmell and myself hadn't trained for 3 weeks beforehand, that's true. But in fairness, and I didn't know this until Archie told me a couple of years ago, they actually promised Archie he would be in the side if he was fit. And Archie declared himself fit and didn't play. And I had a more testy relationship with him. I used to think I was brilliant and he didn't. And so there was actually one occasion he said to me at half-time in the game, he said, I need to buck up in the second half because the linesman was having a better game than me. But overall, he was a sensational manager, no question about it. To me, I like the most charismatic manager's ever been in the English game. And because of what he did with two provincial sides like Derby County winning a league with Nottingham Forest and two European Cups, he's in any conversation to be the best because he's just simply unbelievable. We didn't have a great relationship as a player. I always felt as if I was trying to, and this I will be serious for a second, always felt as if I was trying to prove him wrong rather than right each time. But if he felt that that was the best or that was how he was going to try and get the best out of me, I don't mind. And honestly, I don't care how you're treated at the end of it. If you are part of a side that's gone 42 games without defeat, and I played only in 38 of them, And if you think that you're going to have the success that he's going to give you, or you're going to be part of that there, you would take criticism all day long. I've got no problem with it whatsoever now. I did have a problem with it when I was a player. I felt as if I could maybe have done even better for him if I had been praised rather than being criticised most of the time. But as Cloughy once said to me, son, you're arrogant with very little to be arrogant about. And it might just about sum me.
Could you felt you could have played in that first cup final against Malmo?
That's a very good point, Jim. The answer is actually he was right. He was right. First of all, as a manager, you don't want to be going in with two players. I didn't have a hamstring problem. Archie might have done, but mine was a hematoma in my thigh, which is not cured for about 3 weeks. But the problem is this year that if the following week I actually played an international game for Northern Ireland and was off at half time. So, and he reminded me of that there when we come back for pre-season. He says, so don't, you can take your anger out on someone else, he said, rather than him. And he made the point, and he was right. And I was a manager, and I'm sitting, and also Frank Clark was involved in the three. So you're going into a European Cup final with two boys who haven't trained for a couple of weeks, and a third member who may be fit. Absolutely. I didn't see that as a player. I absolutely see it as a manager.
Are you surprised that we still eulogise him today?
Not at all. Absolutely not. Because he is a really... he is a one-off character. There's no question about it. And it's interesting. It's 20 years now, and yet for all the trials and tribulations that I had with him, when he had a memorial service, and the Clough family, there was 3 speakers, Geoffrey Boycott being one of them, and I was asked to speak. So for all the time, the Clough family paid me an enormous honour. I was honoured.
Yes.
To be asked to do that.
Yes.
And, and that was great. So everything's gone. He is just phenomenal manager. He was and will always be talked about, honestly. And as long as people, maybe like myself or other people during the course of time, just keep his name floating around, I don't think he'll ever be forgotten.
I think you're absolutely right. And he had strong opinions about things. Simon, you admire people who have strong opinions, and they stick to those opinions.
Yeah, of course. And I admire Brian Clough. And I find myself, I read Martin's book last year, and obviously you get the flavour of it. I had Trevor Francis manage for me, so I got that second-hand experience of Brian Clough. I've met Nigel on a number of occasions, but I'm a fascinated person by Clough. I've read some of Clough's books because there's a few that he's done. But you go back and look at the interviews that he did after the Leeds debacle, and you listen to the interview that he did with Don Revie. You look at the manner in which he deals with John Motson on various subject matters, like a little bit less from you guys and a little bit less and more, a little bit more football and a little bit less yap. And I like him. I think he should have been England manager. I think what he did, I think that Nottingham Forest side that got promoted in 77, 78 and then goes on to win the European Cup in 79 and win the league and win the League Cup was a absolutely brilliant side.
Yeah.
Brilliant side.
Brilliant.
As good as anything we've seen in English football.
Yeah.
And and I include Man City in that conversation.
Yes.
Martin Mutby.
Really nice.
I mean, I've interviewed Sir Alex and Jock Stein and people like that, but when you interview Clough, you have no idea what's coming next, and that to me was a wonderful aspect of it. He said to me just before it started, I'd like to make a point about the funding of Wembley, the new Wembley. I said, yeah, fire away. And he said, well, Adam Crozier then at the FA and Margaret Thatcher, if I had my way, I'd put them in a capsule and fire them both to the darkest part of space. And I've never forgotten it. And I thought, and then he says, right, let's talk about Martin.
Well, you've just said there, you don't know what's coming from him. And that was true. He would, he could say something to you on a Monday, totally contradict himself on Friday, and you believe both of them. So he had that phenomenal ability. I've seen it as he's walking down the corridor of the City Ground, there used to be a thing called the drying room, in there where you drew you dried your own kit and stuff like this here. A far cry from today's game, but anyway, and if you were in that drying room and you saw him coming down from a distance of about 20 or 30 feet and you looked at his eyes and you wondered, you knew what sort of mood he was going to be in, and if there was a certain glint in his eye and you stayed in that drying room and you closed the door because you did not want to meet him at all.
Brilliant. Martin, thank you for that. You listen, Jim White, Simon Jordan and Martin O'Neill with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go.